Hi, this is Ed from Comic Vibe, and I'm interviewing Miguel Sepulveda here, who is an artist for DC Comics. Miguel, where are you from? ¿De dónde eres?
Barcelona, España.
De Barcelona. He's from Barcelona, Spain. ¿Y cómo conseguiste su trabajo aquí? How did you get your job here working for DC?
Bueno, pues enseñando muestras en los diferentes salones que se celebraban en España hasta que contacté con mi representante y él se encargó de hacer llegar estas muestras a las dos editoriales más punteras en Estados Unidos, que son Marvel y DC Comics.
He had his representatives contact Marvel and DC, and he had an exhibition of work that he presented to them, and made some contact and came here and got the job with DC. Entonces, ¿cómo empiezas a dibujar? How do you begin to draw? ¿Empiezas con la cara o con el cuerpo? O
Normalmente,
or do you start with the body or the face? Or how do you begin to approach your drawing?
calculamos el tamaño del dibujo, lo que nos va a ocupar para que luego no se nos escape de los límites de la página.
So I first have to deal with the limits of the space in the page so that I know exactly how much room I'm going to take up with the image.
A partir de aquí, cuando ya tenemos todo el tamaño controlado, comenzamos a detallar anatomía y detalles físicos.
And then once I have the space determined that I'm going to use, I begin to detail the anatomy and create the figure.
Y a partir de aquí, bueno, pues el detalle más minucioso, más fino y luego a continuación el entintado, que serían los acabados ya definitivos en caso de no tener que colorear.
So in that case, then I start with the pencils, and then we have to deal with the inks, and finally we have to color everything in. And sometimes I have to do that myself, depending. Entonces, más o menos, ¿cuántas páginas de una comiquita tienes que hacer por mes? Like, how many pages in a comic book do you have to deal with per month, approximately, at this point?
En el caso de DC Comics son 20, en Marvel son 22.
It's 22 pages for Marvel per month and 20 pages for DC per month. Es una tremenda cantidad de trabajo, ¿no? It's a lot of work.
Dependiendo de lo que tú realices, sí. Si tan solo haces el lápiz, pues en un mes deberías tener perfectamente tiempo para hacerlo. Si además del lápiz también haces la tinta, ya se divide ese tiempo prácticamente a la mitad, con lo cual te toca correr más, sintetizar muchos detalles. Si además también añades acabados con ordenador, pues te quita un poco más de tiempo.
So we're talking about depending on how much work you have to actually do, whether or not you just have to draw it with the pencils or you actually have to ink it, and in the end coloring it, the more stuff you have to put on the paper, the more time it's going to take. So you really have to learn how to manage your time to be able to complete the work and deliver it timely.
Como ejemplo tenemos este dibujo, tiene lápiz, tinta y acabados con ordenador. Toda esta trama, efectos de luz, todo esto sería lo que es el acabado con ordenador. Luego pasa al colorista, que es el que le da el último.
So we have here, you know, the drawing that started off with pencils, and then finally the inks, and then the colors, and then the lighting, and any other digital effects that we do to make the image really pop and enhanced. So that's an example there that he cited. Muy bien, muchas gracias por la entrevista.
De nada, y lo
Thanks a lot for this
por
interview.
no hablar en inglés, lo siento.
I feel bad for not being able to speak English, the artist says, but it doesn't really matter because you're telling your stories visually. So the fact that you can't speak English, you know, that's the guy that has to do the word bubble later, has to deal with that. Que es, no importa que no sabes hablar inglés porque estás haciendo la historia visualmente y después es la gente que tiene que poner las letras y lo que dice en la burbujita, que ellos son los que tienen que comunicar.
Sí.
Yes.
Gracias por la parte que me toca.
Thank you for making that recognition and distinction, he said. No hay problema, no problem at all. Gracias. All right. This is Ed from Comic Vibe, and I'm here with Kirby Crackle. Kirby Crackle, I understand, came all the way over from Seattle. Now, can you guys tell me how you came about formulating the name for this band?
So one of the first comics I ever read was the Fantastic Four #1 by Jack Kirby, and the name came from the kind of energy he used to draw on all his stuff, which was colloquially known as Kirby Dots or Kirby Crackle. So we came up with our name because of Kirby Crackle.
And I think that's very relevant right now to the conversation that I'm about to bring up. You know, Stan Lee gets a lot of credit, and I'm a big fan of Stan. He wrote a lot of interesting things and made a lot of things really bombastic in the comics, but Jack Kirby is really the person who rescued Marvel Comics and lifted it out of bankruptcy, and within a few months made it compete with DC again. So hats off to Jack Kirby, and you guys pay tribute to that. So what kind of music would you describe is this that you do?
Yeah, well, we say we're a nerd rock or geek rock, which means that we sound like, you know, we're influenced by Weezer and Foo Fighters, so we're like a melodic rock pop band, but all our lyrics are about comic book characters and nerd culture, video games, zombies, things that are awesome.
That's really cool. You know, I've heard big rock was coined by Van Halen, but nerd rock, okay, coined by Kirby Crackle. All right, very good to have you. Thank you, guys. And I'm here with sculptor, artist, Paul Harding. Paul.
Hi, how are you? Good.
How did you start doing this?
I was living in New York City as an illustrator, trying to get by doing that. I met a few great people, and I just started designing and sculpting action figures that way.
I'm really into action figures, so I'm really curious. How did you begin to sculpt your action figures? What kind of materials were you using?
For the longest time, I was using wax, which toy wax. It's a time-consuming process, but it's you can get really tight detail that way.
And so to get one character, say for example this Thor from Marvel Legends here, how long would it take you to do that?
That usually takes about 3 weeks.
Yeah. 3 weeks to do one?
Including approval times.
Including approval times. What do you mean by approval time?
Well, in the case of Thor, Hasbro has to approve it, Marvel has to approve it, and so on.
So I understand from when we were talking earlier that you're no longer doing a whole lot of sculpting with your hands anymore. Right. You're doing a lot of stuff digitally. Now, how do you go about doing that now? Did you have to like go buy an arsenal of computers and
yeah, I have a monster computer or two, and I use programs like ZBrush and Freeform, and it's a lot faster this way, and the client is able to make larger scale changes, so it's better for the client.
Does this mean that now your talent as a sculptor is now obsolete?
No. As with any computer program, you still have to be an artist to achieve good effects, and it's really the same thing, just faster work.
I see. And so you're moving now, I understand, from three-dimensional design to two-dimensional design. You're doing book covers and stuff now?
Yep, I also do book covers for this New York Times best-selling young adult horror series called The Demonata.
And anything else on the horizon?
Probably a lot more DC Comics work for DC collectibles and sideshow collectibles. Some big stuff on the horizons there.
All right. Well, very nice talking to you, and thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Good luck in the future. May the force be with you.